Hello and welcome everyone. This is Phoenix with your Patriot Health Report for the weekend of March 29th, 2025. All the health facts you need to know for the Patriot on the go. Hope you guys are doing well, and here we are again. And again, as usual, Bob Gilpatrick of Boomers Forever Young is with us. He's joining us from St. Petersburg, Florida, and a lot going on down there. As you can see from today's title, Immortality Good or bad? What in the world does that mean? Well, you're about to find out. There's some questions that a lot of people may have, and some very interesting comments and information from Bob on this topic. And so let's get right into it without further ado. Bob, how are you, and how are things going down in Florida at the headquarters of Boomers Forever Young?
Things are going really well here, Phoenix. Thanks for asking. It's the weekend of the 29th, and our shipment of our Myotrol product, which has been out for about 5 or 6 weeks, is actually on the road today. It's being transferred from the supplier to a over-the-road carrier, and it's going to be arriving probably in about a week here in St. Petersburg. It has to come from California. And so we have many hundreds of people that use that product and really love it. And we're going to be able to have it back in stock after a long time. We had to order the product with a couple of months cushion to make sure we had enough, and unforeseen circumstances in the supply chain, and it took longer than that. So, but we're calling it Liberation Day. The Myotrol has been liberated from the morass of the supply chain and is on the way to St. Petersburg.
Liberation Day, very interesting title. I don't think I've ever heard that before. Oh, wait a minute, I have. Anyway, Liberation Day, very good. Oh, you know what? Before we get into topic, well, a couple of things. Number one, is there anything else you want to share with us? But also, before we even get into that, if there is anything, what was the actual cause of delay? I mean, I think you told us this like, I don't know, 2 or 3 Patriot Health reports ago, but remind everybody why there was a delay and exactly what happened. Why was there a disruption of the flow of the product, if you don't mind telling us?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so there's, this product, Myotrol, it has to be put together with just the right combination of ingredients that facilitate a transformation from the individual ingredients to a liquid that's highly, highly absorbable, and not only, into your bloodstream, but into your cells and into your DNA. And it has to be in high enough concentrations, and it has to be purified. So the processes that it goes through are not the typical processes for a nutrition product that's just adding some compounds, to facilitate life. This is a very different, and it's an evolution of the science of nutrition. And so it requires specialty ingredients, one of which was coming from a European country. And even though the previous 2 orders, they've been able to provide it and had it in stock, this time they didn't. And when they tried to get it back in stock, the next section of the supply chain wasn't able to give it to them as fast as they wanted. These are plant extracts. So we don't know the exact reason why it was delayed. It could have been related to farming. It could have been related to harvesting of natural products. It could have been the processing of those natural products. but in any regard, what would have been shipped within a day or two took more than 2 months before it got into the mail to come to us. So when you're dealing with, a product like Boomer Boost, like our barley product, like Myotrol, like our probiotics, our lignans, they're one-of-a-kind processes that are based in part on agricultural products. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. If you watch what happens, for example, with the price of things like wheat and barley and even palm oil, coconut oil, there's a whole science to the pricing of those commodities that's based on the weather. So you could see a report, hey, the price of wheat just went down by 8% today because there's a positive rain forecast in the wheat growing areas of Ukraine. And so literally that's the way the world of commercial agriculture works. And then when you get into the minute aspects of agriculture where you have unique agricultural ingredients, it has even more susceptibility to the various types of things that can have an effect on it.
Fascinating. Well, I'm glad you do have it back in stock, and it is coming. I know a lot of people will be very excited to hear this news who've been waiting on us. So that's very good. Do you have anything else to go into before we get into this very different topic?
Yeah, just again, for people that are tuning in, the weekend of the 29th, we still have a really good sale going on that's a buy one, get one half off sale. And that includes our barley products and our lignans and probiotics, and it also includes ashwagandha and olive leaf extract, and it includes vitamin D, vitamin B, and omega-3 fatty acids. Very popular products right now are on sale, buy one, get one half off, just for a few more days. So, the beginning part of April here of 2025, we'll switch to a different sale. So anybody can tune in and find something on sale. But for now, this moment, that's what we have. And in addition, which will probably continue for a little while longer, we have a really great nootropic phoenix that's called Clarity Factor. And we had a lot of people using Clarity Factor, and the company that made it went out of business right in the middle of having an order from us to replenish our stock. And we had already paid them actually a 50% down payment. And then they went out of business. They just had a major issue with one of the senior members of their ownership, and they decided they weren't going to stay in business. So we had to find a new person to manufacture it from scratch, and we wanted a duplicate, and so it took them quite a while. But now that's back in stock after 5 months of being out. It's back in stock, and lots of people are getting it again, and we have an incentive to get a 10% discount on it. And a lot of what people are doing is they're putting it on their auto ship again, and then for that first order, they're getting an extra 10% off. So and now we're in good shape. Larry and I, my co-owner, were talking yesterday and say, now the Myotrol's on the way. We've got our Clarity Factor settled with a new manufacturer, and we've got plenty of Boomer Boost and barley. It's like right now we're back to where we normally would be with plenty of stock of everything. And we're gonna do everything we can to continue it that way in the future.
Very, very good. Well, hope continued success, and everyone else hopes that also who depend upon your products. Difficult task. Yeah. That's what happens when you have specialty things, Bob, that no one else has. You run into these things. Yep. Again, everyone, this isn't your average generic pick it out anywhere you want type product. This is very specialized, highly engineered, scientifically designed, and proven and tested product. Very, very good. Well, thanks for the updates, Bob. Anything else before we get into the topic?
No, that's about it for now.
Okay, so the big question I have and everyone else.
Just wanted to let you know that the washer has started to leak again, and the sprinkler system is not working. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
What was that?
There's a, hang on just a second here. Hold on.
Okay.
Larry, shh, I'm on my podcast. You guys need to go down the hall. Yeah,
All good.
that's Larry Phoenix.
Okay, cool. Tell Larry
Yeah,
I said
he's,
hi. But usually that's an
in the
unusual.
hallway talking with the secretary
Oh, very
about
good.
payment for one of our products.
Oh, well, there you go. See everybody, they're working hard down there.
Yeah.
Anyway, immortality, good or bad? That's a good question, Bob. Immortality. Number one, let's address that. When you say immortality, what exactly are you talking about? And let's get right into this. Again, this is your baby, and I'm as curious as everyone else. Tell us what you're talking about there, brother.
Yeah, so immortality is, typically what people think of when they think of immortality is the fact that their physical body will stop aging and that they will be able to, stay for many centuries or even thousands of years or millions of years living on planet Earth in the same body. And to some people, that's interesting if they like the body that they have. And it's interesting to some people that believe that, there's only one life. And when your physical body dies, you cease to exist. And it could be interesting for many other people for a variety of reasons, which we'll go into. But typically it means my physical body is going to live forever. Now, what I was saying to you the other day is, it could be that you could achieve this state, and but we live on a planet, in a solar system, in a galaxy, and in a universe. And each of those things can have an effect on how long we're going to live, especially, being here on this planet. Any day there could be a super volcano eruption or, some meteorite strike the Earth. And we've had mass extinction events on this planet, 4 major ones, that we're aware of. One of them was caused by an algae bloom in the oceans. So there's many different things that could impact our fragile ecosystem that would make it impossible for humans to live here. And so, and that's our planet itself. But our planet is also in a solar system with a sun that's very volatile. And we know from being able to observe the universe that someday our sun is going to expand and explode and engulf our planet in a way that would make it uninhabitable. And in addition to that, the sun is one of about 200 billion stars that's in the Milky Way galaxy. And the galaxy itself has volatility. It has explosions of stars that other than our own that affect us. And in addition, it has the creation of black holes from explosion of stars that could engulf us. And not only that, the galaxy itself is under potential significant alteration or even annihilation because we're on a collision course with our neighboring galaxy, Andromeda, which has 1,000 billion stars in it. And when our two galaxies collide in about 4 billion years, there's going to be significant disruption. And not only that, but the universe itself, as far as we know, is about 12 billion years old and is still expanding. But at some point, it's going to stop expanding and start contracting back in on itself to where it literally crushes itself out of existence. And so immortality might mean our bodies are not aging anymore, but it doesn't mean we're going to be able to live in this body forever because of factors, like that. And so that's typically what we're talking about with immortality. And there's a lot of interest in it, huge interest. Phoenix, you've got people that are spending their whole life researching and testing things on themselves to reach this level. Ray Kurzweil is a very famous scientist who invented many things. He's like a modern day Einstein. He invented the voice activated computer and many other things. And he's really big into immortality and longevity, and actually he's co-owner of a nutrition company whose purpose it is to help people to live longer and healthier. And his business partner is a medical doctor who helps with their formulations and the like. And so Ray writes books about singularity, the merger of men and machines. And he also alludes to issues regarding immortality. And in regard to, computer systems, which, Ray is an expert in, we now have where people are already starting to create software humans. And a software human takes many forms. It can be a personality that's been programmed into a robot. And they had those going back 20 years ago. I saw a robot demonstrated at a conference that was meant for use in the healthcare field, and that robot had its own personality. It was very humorous and sarcastic, and when you asked it questions, it gave you funny answers. But what they're now doing is they're having an initiative where an individual person can create digital immortality for themselves, meaning you can download everything about you that would help to make up a personality that would be put into a software program. And as my niece has done, who's a therapist, she has made a talking avatar that looks just like her, that answers questions to people who are seeking therapy. And you can have a conversation with Laura Wild in her digital form, her digital personality. And every day it continues to accept new information, and it learns on its own from the questions that come to it, and it researches the internet and comes up with answers just like when you query ChatGPT or other AI data information systems.
Amazing.
And so in a sense, people can already transport their personality into another form. It's not a life form, but into a digital form, and your personality can live on forever in this robotic avatar type of human software.
It's fascinating. But why? That's the other question. Why? What's the desire? I would see myself, no desire for anything like that myself, but that's just me.
Well, I can give you an example. When I was a member of the board of advisors, Kevin Harrington was a founding member with me, and he was the first ever shark on the Shark Tank. And he purchased all of the recordings and printed information that was the teachings of Zig Ziglar, who was a very famous self-help psychologist and a very loved man. People just loved being in his presence and listening to him speak. And it almost felt like this really smart grandpa was there teaching you lessons about life and happiness and business. And so Kevin purchased from his estate when he passed away all of his material, and he redid it. And I watched some of the sessions where a company that was called Pitch Media, it was Corey Bergeron's company, where they were outlining and mastering all of this information. And they were also in the process of creating an avatar of Zig that could be up on the stage at a live stage in the form of a hologram, and it would look just like Zig, and people could ask questions and he would answer questions, and you'd be watching this hologram on stage. And so it was an attempt to keep alive a beloved advisor and teacher after his death.
Did they ever do that? Were they ever successful at doing one of the holographic speeches?
No, they not in a way that worked how they wanted it to. So they just pivoted to have it, as online education, and they weren't able to master that in a cost-effective way that made sense. And so it can be done. I've seen life-size holograms on stages before, and you can easily buy software and projector that will make a hologram right on your desk of whatever it is you want to appear. You can purchase that now for yourself.
Yeah, I do know that in Japan, the Japanese had a couple, I know one, I think possibly two different pop artists who actually produced albums, had music, and they weren't real. They were holographic images, and people would literally go to the shows, and these, holographic avatars of the basically AI-generated singer and musician would appear on stage. People would be like cheering and everything, knowing full well it was a holograph. And they sold all type of CDs. They were very successful, whoever put it out. So the Japanese actually did that and pulled it off, and that was a few years ago. And I know it was like a big deal then. And literally people would pay the concert level ticket prices to go and see this holographic image of this female, both of them were females, singing and performing. And with all the music and everything, but it was nothing but a holographic projection and a recording. And it was very successful. So I know the Japanese have pulled that off before.
Yeah. And so it's this is the way I look at it is this, Phoenix. I think that we live in a recreational universe, and if you believe that, you can then look at immortality from that framework. So do I really love living here on this planet? And do I like the body that I'm in? Do I like where I am right now from my experiences and my relationships? And do I think that I want to stay here on this planet to enjoy God's creation for however long I want to, even if it's 1 billion years? And so if you start from, a healthy place looking at it, some people might decide, yeah, I want to live longer than 100 years. And then if you do, we're at a point in history where it's going to be very possible in just the next 5 to 10 years to be able to say definitively that this group of people that are doing this are no longer aging. And we have that in certain biomarker aspects already, where if you look at, why people die, and if you're just asked the reason why do people die, you can say that 95% of the people die from an adult onset disease. Now, some people die when they're very young. Some people die from accidents, drug overdoses, things like that. But most people die from an adult onset disease, and the main ones are heart disease and stroke and cancer and Alzheimer's disease and diabetes and the like. And those diseases are all precipitated by inflammation. And by that, we mean human beings are very alive. We're organic beings, and we're breathing in oxygen. And oxygen is like a facilitator for a burning process where we're transforming food that we eat into a specific type of energy that keeps us going. It allows us to move around and do things and think. But a natural byproduct of that very organic human process is the offshoot of molecules during the metabolism that are very caustic and almost like little hot coals that are burning your body up. And over time, after you get singed by 1 trillion hot coals, your body is no longer functional. It's burned itself up. And that oxidation is something that we can now reduce significantly. So the average person burns themselves up by the time they're about 85. So even if you never get sick, at around age 85, you're going to be cooked. And you're going to probably have what appeared to be illnesses, which actually is you dying of old age over the course of about 6 months, because all that oxidation has damaged your telomeres, which are the little tails on the end of your chromosomes, which contain the information for cell division and the like. And when they get too short, your body can't keep replicating cells accurately. So they can do it about 50 times, but on that 51st doubling, they get what's called the Hayflick limit. And on that 51st doubling, they double with errors because the telomeres are too short. Well, telomeres shorten from oxidation, right? So when you reduce your oxidation, you can slow the rate of deterioration of your telomeres. And so we already have that. Phoenix, we already have people where you can measure the length of their telomeres, and they're not as short as they should be for their age. They're maintaining their telomeres, and we can measure people's level of oxidation, and we can see, I think the biggest change that I've seen, which kind of moved off the scale of measurement, but I saw a person reduce his rate of inflammation by a factor of 60. And so on the scale, which the average person is 3, this person started at a 6. And the reason was he had diabetes, so he had higher inflammation. But now, after using the compounds that reduce your inflammation, he went down below a 0.1. And we don't know how far below 0.1 because the scale stopped at 0.1. But at any rate, he went from being in a high oxidative state and was going to be dying young to a point now where we don't really know how long he's going to live. It could be much longer than the longest anyone has lived so far, which seems to be about 117 years old. And so that part of immortality is already in place. People can get powders that you mix in a glass of water from my company, which is an anti-aging company, and have exactly that happen. You can reduce your inflammation down so low that you're essentially no longer aging from oxidation. Now, there's other reasons why people age as well. And for the most part, um, aside from the psychological aspect of things, we're about 80 to 85% of the way to the biochemical immortality aspect. The other really big ones are what are called senescent cells, which are cells that are aging and they're supposed to die off and get out of the way and make room for new cells, but they don't. And they create lots of inflammation and they infect other cells in the area. They become cancerous. And now, just the other day, Phoenix, since just a week ago, there was an article that came out that that talked about a discovery of a protein that is related to that aspect of these cells not wanting to die and get out of the way. And of course, they said we there's been some research about it, and in addition, if we could develop some new drugs, we could maybe begin to attack this problem. But the fact is, the Life Extension Foundation is known for a few years that combining resveratrol and quercetin together, you can activate those cells to die. And so that's what we did with one of our products. We made sure it had both resveratrol and quercetin in it to address that aspect of aging. The other big one is muscle loss. When you are oxidizing, your body loses muscle as you age, and your muscle is a crucial aspect of your health and wellness. And essentially, people are aging at the rate that they're losing muscle. And we now have a fix for that. We have Gladiator Barley and Myotrol, and people of any age, doesn't matter if you're already 85 years old, you can begin gaining back your muscle weight at a very fast rate. And so these are some of the aspects of immortality that are real right now. And what is more difficult is the psychological part, Phoenix, because human beings have brains that use up about 20% of their energy, even though it's only 2% of your weight. And our brains are constantly taking in information and then sending signals to the rest of our body as to what to do. So we see things and we hear things and we smell things, and then we process this information, and we are not always processing the information in the most logical way. Sometimes we delete things that are valuable because we don't want to face them. Sometimes we distort things that we make them even worse or not as bad. And then we also generalize things. This is just like that. Well, no, it's not really. It's more like this and similar to that. But this is how people delete, distort, and generalize information. And then it becomes habitual. Their unconscious mind starts doing it constantly. And in the case of aging, people are doing that mostly subconsciously. They're viewing people as they age, and it starts when you're about 5 years old. You begin to notice the concept of impermanence of human bodies. So here's a 5-year-old. My brother's 10, my sister's 20, my parents are 50, grandma's 70, and great grandma just died. That's what I'm supposed to do. And your unconscious mind participates from this observation, this longitudinal observation, and it affects your hormone secretions and other things that lead to the aging process. And so in order to address that aspect, if you decide you want to become immortal, you're going to have to convince your unconscious mind that just because other people are aging doesn't mean that you have to be aging. And there's some specific, really effective meditative techniques for doing that involve lining up each of your endocrine glands with its corresponding chakra, and either being put in a trance by a therapist or creating your own trance of self-hypnosis and using the consciousness of your higher self to direct the intelligence of your endocrine system to start doing things a different way. And there's a really good way of doing that. That is this mitigation of the collective nocebo of aging, and that's part of pursuing immortality. One of the biggest things that we find nowadays, Phoenix, is that whole issue of muscle loss that we talked about. And what it is there's recently, and I've talked to the scientists about this, we know a lot more about the human genome than we used to, and we know specifics. This gene creates expression for the building of this protein. And we make about 100,000 different proteins. And some genes have the ability to express for more than one type of protein. And as we age, a thing happens that's called methylation, where certain parts of our genes will have a methyl group get attached to it. And as we age, it happens more and more. And then what occurs as a result is it suppresses that gene from being expressed. And so then we make less and less of certain essential things like proteins and enzymes and antioxidants like superoxide dismutase, which you have to have not to burn yourself up in just a couple of years. But those things begin to be produced less and less because of this methylation. But now, because we now know that, and we also know how to get around that methylation, how to make that gene get expressed in its purity with ingesting pills that are derived from natural products, from plant extracts. We can now, using computer systems, match up a purified plant extract, a single molecule, and we know which gene it's going to activate because it's programmed in a computer. And then you can test it in real life to make sure it's really working. And now this revolution is now upon us, where we can now actually buy pills that are utilizing this technology, that's not just adding some protein or good fats or vitamins to our diet. It's actually taking a gene activator by mouth. And this new science is going to make a huge difference in people's lives. It already is. And more is yet to come. The Myotrol product is just the first one of these new nutraceuticals. And the new ones that are coming are, some of them are going to be equally profound to the Myotrol. And we'll talk more about some of those at another time in a month or two as they get closer to actual production.
Now, is that from your company, Bob? Specifically, yes. You're talking about? No kidding. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see in a couple of months. I'll be able to tell people because I'll be part of the testing for it. I'll be one of the trial subjects.
Come on, Bob.
Bob will take some of these products.
No one's listening right now, so tell us. We all promise, thousands of us promise we won't tell a soul. Please tell us. Come on, you can do it. Come on, Bob. You're amongst friends here, okay?
You better twist harder. My arm's not hurting yet.
Oh, I can't reach that far. Okay. I guess we'll have to wait. All right. Well, that's really cool. Okay. Well, please continue.
Yeah. No. So the reason I'm going through this aspect of it, Phoenix, is we can right now. People can take products and program their mind the way I was just describing, probably with assistance. And in theory, you could become immortal. And if you were to get your blood tested and have it analyzed by somebody who's, a longevity advisor to the Life Extension Foundation, they would look at your blood work and go, gee, it doesn't seem like you're aging, right? And so that's right now, right? So let's say then, for example, it's true, and all of a sudden, we are 5 years down the road, and people begin to actually believe this. They're looking at their body, they're looking at their hair, which has grown back, they're looking at their muscle, which had gotten flabby and is now super strong again. They're 79 years old and they're back playing basketball with the 20-year-olds, and they're even stronger than they were when they were 20. And they look in the mirror and their friends look in the mirror and they say, man, you look 50 years younger than 79 years old. What's going on? And all of a sudden now, there's going to be people walking around, and it's going to be very surreal because there's going to begin to have a general readiness to conclude that some of these people are no longer aging. And then you have to ask, well, what's the advantage of that? Why would I want to do that? And there's a lot of possible reasons, right? So think about if somebody was really pursuing a particular path, quantum physics or mechanical engineering, and they were working on a major project to help make life better on the planet. And in 85 years, they couldn't quite get there. They died before their creation came to fruition. Well, with another 100 years or 200 years or 300 years, who knows what those types of people could accomplish. Imagine what Ray Kurzweil, or some of the other geniuses are going to create for all of us in the next couple of 100 years.
That brings to mind real quick before we get on something else, two people that I recently heard about. They're talking about sleep patterns, etc., and different things. And they actually noted two individuals, Nikola Tesla and also Leonardo da Vinci. They limited their sleep as much as they could because they needed more time to think about, invent, and work on things. And Tesla was known one time, that was noted, he stayed up 78 hours straight working on a project because he couldn't stop, and he had an idea and he wanted to continue it. So individuals like that, the mindset you're talking about, someone who really wants to continue their work, yeah, they're out there. Could you imagine if Tesla or someone like Da Vinci would have lived, 200 years, 250 years, what they would have come up with? Very true. Very true.
Yeah. It'll actually really lead to, a lot of developments that may not have happened otherwise, because new people would have to start from scratch. Might not be so important in this day and age with AI, as people's experiences and thought strategies, are cataloged and queryable by AI. But there's also personal growth and improvement. So if you enjoy living on the planet, a lot of people mature late, and they might have anxiety or other things that hold them back from enjoying life until they get to be much older. And it's like, wow, just when I finally started to evolve, now I'm 85 and, I don't have time to really enjoy what my personality has evolved into. So this whole thing about personal growth and self-improvement and creating happiness could have some new, some new twist to it as well.
That brings to mind also, I've heard people jokingly say, it's not that common anymore, that good health is wasted on the youth.
Yes.
Good health is wasted on the youth. Anyway.
Yeah. And so, until we really can see, my guess is it's about 5 years away where we'll see the evidence of apparent immortality, then I think that we can say that the current state of affairs is that death is still a 100% certainty.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's
Yeah.
pretty sure on a lot of things.
But
Yeah.
some people also believe that they actually already are immortal, and that they have been forever, that they are infinite and immortal. And certain, religions believe that our soul was never born and will never die, and that we're immortal consciousness, and that this body that we're in at the moment is just one of the vehicles that we have along the path of our existence.
Well,
And it's
that would
almost
that would
like,
be my mindset, Bob. I agree
yeah,
with that 100%. So,
yeah,
we're talking about the good or the bad aspect of all of this. I don't see it good or bad. Um, I don't know. For me, I'm at peace with death because I just know, and I've always accepted it as part of the process. Sure, want to hang around as long as I can, really do, and to be the best that I can be and as healthy as I can be. But I've never had the desire like, oh my goodness, I want to live forever. Because actually, I agree with what you were just saying and some of the mindsets that we do, and that this vehicle we're in, our human body, is exactly that. It's a vehicle that can be replaced at some point. There's a lot of controversy and talk about this as program within a program within a program, and many hours of conversation that goes along with that. But personally, I just wanted to throw in there, if anybody's wondering, that's me. That's what I feel, and I hope to. Here, let me get some wood to knock on. Live as long as I can, as healthy as I can. But when that time comes, when I pass over and leave this physical existence, so be it. And I do not believe that is the end. If anything, it's opening up to a new chapter and an entire different perception of reality and what's going on until something changes. How that works, I don't know. I've heard, it's kind of like blocked from us and we really can't see. And, once we come back into these forms. But, again, like you're talking about, the entire reincarnation aspect has been really, really strongly, many times proven when children have, at a very young age, recounted their former lives, their names, who they were married to, where they lived, how they died, and the whole thing. And people have researched it and found out, like, oh my goodness, this is real.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you also have people that actively um, have conscious experiences outside of their body. Look at people that have had near-death experiences, and they report floating above their body at the accident site or in the operating room, and then traveling, to a light and experiencing um, beings in a different dimension, and then coming back because it wasn't their time. What's that all about?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and people can, have purposeful experiences like that. There are many people that will do that on purpose as they go to bed at night, or even just for a little afternoon recreation, they'll take an outer body experience to a different dimension. And there's a book about that called The Tiger's Fame, about a man who was accompanied by his spirit guide, and they traveled through all of the dimensions of the universe. And he described what each of the dimensions was like, and when he came back and re-inhabited inside of his body. And so there's already that aspect to immortality that does not actually include your physical body. It's a transcendence of your physical body while it's still breathing and while your heart is still beating. And that's something that people do, I think, to avoid boredom with their earthly life, and they go exploring. But if people were immortal, boredom could be a very real thing. If you're 900 years old and you've been living in the same house with the same people, doing the same thing day after day, and people could also have a loss of purpose at the same time, where it's like, what am I really doing here? And do other people really need me here anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And if and the other thing is, relationships could be very good as a result of immortality. If you have a generative type of interaction that gets better as time goes by. But if things are getting worse, do you really want to be immortal? And what if things are getting better, but someone dies in an accident? Right? Now you are immortal and they're gone. And this whole aspect of, well, I'll get to see him or see her in heaven soon because I'm already 89, right? But if you're immortal, it's like, now what are you going to do to have hope of being reunited, right?
You know,
Now,
what this reminds me of? There was a gentleman. Remember a song many years ago? You were young, I'm sure, when the Vietnam War was going on. It was called "The Ballad of the Green Beret," and it was written by a Green Beret. His name was Barry Sadler, and he became very famous for it. But he actually became an author also after he left the military, and he wrote a series of books called Casca, the Eternal Warrior. And the premise behind the book, I've got a copy over here, and there were multiple volumes of it. And it used to be one of those copies of books that when I was in the military, we'd all trade and, read on aircraft and stuff. And Casca, according to the book, he was one of the Roman guards that stood guard at the crucifixion of Christ. And he is the one who actually stabbed Christ in the side with his spear on orders from his superior to, make him die a little quicker. And because of this, he was cursed, if you will, to remain alive until Christ returned. And it goes through this entire series of this dude, and horrible things happen to him, Bob. He's the eternal warrior. He dies a violent death as a Roman, and just different crazy things that happen to him, these horrific injuries throughout all the different wars, all the way up to modern times. But that reminds me of that. Like, what if something bad happened? Yeah, you want to see something bad? Try to find a copy of Casca, the Eternal Warrior. I mean, it's a great book.
And how do you spell that first word?
C-A. Hang on, let me grab it off my bookshelf. Hold on one second. Okay, here we go, Bob. Hold on. Barry Sadler, and his name, of course, Barry, S-A-D-L-E-R, Casca, which is C-A-S-C-A, the Eternal Mercenary. Casca's battles begin. Yeah, the Eternal Mercenary. It reads on the back here, since we're on the topic and everyone's listening, Casca Longinus, cursed by Christ on Golgotha, condemned to outlive the ages and wander the globe as a constant soldier, forever fighting, surviving, and waiting for him to return. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Barry
Cool.
Sadler.
I'm going to definitely get that.
If you can find it. And I forget how many. I mean, if you have a complete series of these, it's worth thousands and thousands of dollars. But I tell you what, this was one of the books, this and Starship Troopers, the original book on that. One of the two common books that you'd find on a C-130 flying overseas that'd be passed around by guys. Fascinating stories. Anyway, how's that for taking you off topic? It's really not off topic because we're talking about,
No.
you know, it's on topic, talking about trapped into something if you were immortal. And, yeah, anyway, Barry Sadler,
Yep.
Koska, everyone. Check it out.
Yep. You know, there's also people talk about possible social implications for immortality, one of being overpopulation and, you know, the scarcity of resources. Right now we have about 8 billion people. What would happen if we had 80 billion? And, you know, we're already shoulder to shoulder in certain cities. And it could present a problem for future generations. And also, if you're immortal, and so is everybody else, is anyone going to have children?
True. What's the reason for it? Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll get into all kinds of sci-fi stuff here. Brave New World. What else? And different ones. I don't want to go into them right now. Get us totally off topic, but yeah, that's very sci-fi related. You know, living for a certain amount of time. But look at like things like Logan's Run, where you could only live so long. It's like the opposite of that. Everyone was in great health, very handsome and beautiful, anything they wanted, but you reach a certain age, it was time for you to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that reminds me, did you hear the story about the man and lady that went to heaven? And they had both died together when they were about 106 years old. And they got up and to the pearly gates, and St. Peter said, "Oh, look, George and Mary are here. This is so wonderful. Come on in. We've been waiting for you. And jump in the golf cart here. I'm going to bring you over to where you're going to be staying." And he pulls them up to this beautiful mansion, a circular driveway and pillars. And George looks at St. Peter and he goes, "There's got to be some kind of a mistake. We didn't live in a house like this down on earth." He goes, "Oh, don't worry. Up here in heaven, you can live wherever you want, any kind of house you want. I picked this one out for you guys, but you can live in any kind of house you want." And he said, "Come on in. You know, we'll go in and get something to eat and drink, and then we'll get ready to go over to the country club." You know, the country club, we didn't belong to a country club when we were on Earth. He goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. Everybody belongs to the country club up here." They get over to the country club, and they're serving this beautiful banquet. And George finally looks over, and he says, "Mary, you know, if it wasn't for you and that damn Boomer Boost and barley from Bob's company, we could have been here 30 years ago."
Oh my God, that's a good one, Bob. Who came up with that? That's good. That's got to be a Larry joke. Who came up with that?
Yeah, a friend of mine told that to me.
Oh, that's really good. That's a good one. Well, I tell you what, that's a good segue out of here. 57. We're getting close to end of the hour here. Fascinating topic. A lot to think about. It makes you wonder. You know, it makes all of us wonder. It's very, very intriguing topic. As we roll out of here, Bob, tell everyone, number one, how they can get in touch with you, other than if you go to the PatriotIntelReport.com. Everyone, click on the lady on the blue lightning storm on the left-hand side. Take you right to Bob's site. But Bob's got some numbers, some addresses, and other things. So fill us in with the contact info. And then, if you would, closing thoughts on this topic and your final words of wisdom, if you would, sir.
Yeah, so thanks, Phoenix. The phone number for us is an 800 number, which is 861-4609. And we pick that phone up Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern time. You can also leave a message anytime. And if it's over the weekend, we'll call you back on Monday. And if you're in the neighborhood coming on vacation or you live nearby in St. Petersburg, that's the Tampa Bay area, we're at 5401 Central Avenue in St. Petersburg, right on the main road that goes from the beach to downtown. And call ahead so I can make sure I'm here to meet up with you. We'd be happy to see you. And I would just say this at the end here, Phoenix. You know, some people already know that they don't want to live to be 100 years old, and that's perfectly fine. But a lot of people are curious and have a general readiness to believe that they want to live for a really long time in a really healthy state. And the reason we know this is there are companies that look at trends for the society and people ranking things that they're most interested in for 2025, for example. And in 2025, the one thing that people were most interested in was living a long, healthy life. How to get just the right things for themselves so they could stay healthy and live long. And so we know from social research that this is a big area of interest. But I would say this, if you're not sure that you want to be immortal, that's fine, because you can always change your mind later. So if you want us to help you with that, help you reduce, your inflammation and help you to improve your muscle gain and improve your genetic expression and help you improve your circulation, things like that are all contributing to the biomarkers of immortality. We certainly can help you with that, and just like the people in the story, if you're 175 years old and you decide that this immortality thing is not for you, you can just stop taking your barley and boomer boost, and you can start aging again, just like that. So it's not a permanent decision, but if you're curious about it and you want to be super healthy now with a chance to live past 100, then just give us a call and we'll be more than happy to help you out with that.
Very good, very good. All right, rolling out, Bob. What's your final goodbye to us today?
Yeah, I think the real concept of immortality is, it's very interesting, but to me, even more importantly, is that you be centered in your own happiness, centered in your own conviction, your solemn pronouncement or acceptance of your own divinity. And because you could live forever as a godless being, or you can declare your divinity right now today and sit in that feeling of being part of the divine. And as you do that, it's probably not going to matter much what you really think about immortality at that point, because regardless of whether you live until tomorrow or until 300 years from now, that most important spiritual aspect is available every second of every day, that we can bask in it. And you don't want to be so focused on your physical body being immortal that you never have time to sit and just enjoy the creation of God that you really are.
Very, very wise and very, very true. Well, Bob, I want to thank you so much for bringing this topic to us. It's been fascinating. It's been interesting. And I really appreciate it. Glad to hear the good news about the mitral and everything else that's coming back, and can't wait to hear the new stuff you have to share with us in hopefully the near future. I guess that's it. All I have. Anything else, Bob?
No, I think that's it for today. Thank you, Phoenix.
You're welcome, Bob. Thank you. As always, fascinating and just really, really great. I appreciate it. I know all of our listeners do also. So everyone, be well, Bob, and until the next PIR Health Report, Patriot Health Report, right here on this channel, be sure and stay healthy. Contact Bob for more information, and remember, without your health, you have nothing. Until the next Patriot Health Report, everyone, be well, be strong, be healthy. God bless, and Phoenix and Bob out.